Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the second broadcast of the Firebeasts and the Ranch Championship. Today, I am joined by my teammate Moji.
Hello, everyone, and warmly welcome to our race today. I host the race with Richie today. And what are your expectations, Richie?
So last week we had Dino win both races, the race for the points and as well as the race for fun. So he's done really good. So I'm expecting them to do really well because they've actually climbed up to third place in the championship, as you saw the championship standings for a minute. Unfortunately, it's gone off the screen now. But I'm certainly expecting him to do really well, as well as Fattoria 46 in the person of Valentino Rossi. And besides Valentino Rossi, we actually have some more pretty big drivers here and just MotoGP icons in general with us today. Would you like to tell me which drivers we have in the race today?
So we have from MotoGP racers Valentino Rossi and Mattia Pasini. I will introduce these two in the race while the race is flowing, and we are. So I'm very curious who will win today. And what did you say? Who won?
So I think the pair in third at the moment, Dino and Ferrini, actually doing really well with 102 points, just 3 points of Valentino Rossi on second place. Mm-hmm. Bear in mind that the whole championship actually has half FRT drivers, so there's actually 14 people in the lobby at once. 7 FRT drivers, 7 real-life drivers, or MotoGP icons, and all the FRT boys are actually teamed up in two. So essentially what they're doing is every race they swap. So one race they've got one of them participating, the other race they've got the other one. Whereas the MotoGP drivers are actually taking part separately just on their own. And as you can see, Valentino's second, with Dino taking the win in both races last round in Red Bull Ring, climbing up to third place to getting over Mattia Pasini. So my predictions is the fact that I think Dino can climb further up in the championships, showing his strong form last week.
Okay, we will see. I'm very curious. And just like I said, I wasn't there in last time, and this is my first time, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, so this round we will actually be traveling to Fuji, although we will probably cut to that scene shortly. So we can't really see the track just yet, but we will have a short qualifying in the beginning of the race.
So today's race is on Fuji.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any information about the track?
So Fuji is actually located in Japan, as everyone knows. It's actually quite a historic track. F1 actually taking part on it multiple occasions in the past. It has been rebuilt. It used to be a fairly oval track instead, but now it's more of a technical circuit with a very complex last sector. So I'm sure there will be plenty of inconsistencies seen from the drivers on the last sector, and potentially a lot of moves as well. With the long straight, obviously, going past the grandstands on the left. I'm sure there will be some re-overtakes happening there as well, but since we can't see the track just yet, I'm sure we should just leave this for later and let the viewers decide what they think about the track.
Mm-hmm. As I know, Fuji has 2 surfaces.
Indeed, there's 2 track layouts.
Mm-hmm. And which is today?
I am not sure, but we will see that shortly. I do think it will be the long one. I don't think it will be the short one, although we will see it shortly. We are, I think, currently waiting on Valentino Rossi actually to arrive because he has been very busy before. He unfortunately can't always make the time of the start time, but it does seem to be getting underway shortly. So we just have a few minutes going until then. Until then, we can actually see some of these liveries and designs seen on the screen, which has actually been made by one of the FRT drivers, and it's actually really, really accurate to the real representation of some of the real drivers and their liveries on their bikes. They are made by Fabio Paolino. All of these liveries are his work. Very good job.
Mm-hmm. I like these liveries as well.
You can see the infamous Valentino Rossi livery, the blue and very bright orange, sort of yellowish color on his cars as well in the previous race, and I'm sure there will be another one. Lennémított minket. Most nem.
Yeah.
Yep, so we can see a little trailer of the actual championship. What were you saying, Moji?
So in the meantime, I looked after the. I think Luca Cadalora is one of the oldest racers today. He was born in Italy, 1963. So he's turning to this year 57. Did you know that? 57.
No, I did not know that. In fact, that's actually quite surprising. You can see just the age gaps in the interest of sim racing that people have, regardless of the age that they are. It's really quite interesting. And as you can see, we are now finally going to the track. It seems like every single driver is ready now. We are currently watching Valentino in 10th place, but I do not think that the qualifying actually started yet. It seems to be the outlap, and as you can see, what I was talking about, the blue and neon green yellowish color, the infamous Valentino Rossi livery, and we can see that we are indeed on the Fuji GP layout, so we're not on the short circuit because it does include the chicane.
So this is not a secret, and I tell you that, and I will be honest with you. Rossi is my favorite motorcycle racer of all the time, and I will share with you some information about him.
I think it's pretty easy to decide who you're rooting for in this race then.
Pardon?
I think it's pretty easy to decide who you're actually cheering for in this race then.
This is it.
And we can see the huge lineup of drivers. I think they're actually going for the outlaps. I do think they're on a live lap now, although the timer in the middle seems to be a bit off with 596 minutes at the moment, so I'm not sure what's going on, but the timer hasn't started yet.
This is a little bit slow, I think.
Yeah. And we're back to the standings board.
So Luca Cadalora, I talked about him.
He's sitting last in the championship at the moment on 2 points.
But in the MotoGP, he had 1,932 points, and he participated on 195 races, and he won 34 from this.
That is pretty incredible for a career, I'd say.
Quite amazing. And he has been racing 16 years.
That is a very long and, I'm sure, enjoyable career for the man as well.
Yeah.
In the meantime, we are still waiting to get underway with the qualifying. I do believe it will be a 10-minute qualifying. Oh, it has actually begun, so there's 7 minutes left from the qualifying, and we can see Mauro Sanchini in 9th place at the moment. I do think that the drivers are lining up. Oh, he actually messes up the exit on the corner and he goes sliding. So I'm sure that's not a good start to his lap, unfortunately. He will be backing out of that, but we do see some of the times being set already. In 12th place at the moment, we see Passo lining up.
So they can use slipstreams?
I do believe so, yeah. I think they've just sort of lined up for the tow for this race. I do think it's really important because there's a huge long back straight on this track, and slipstream is very important on this track for a really good time. So I do believe no one wants to go first, but I'm sure there was a person occasionally just saying that they will just take the L and go first.
And the qualifying takes 10 minutes.
Yep, and there's 6 minutes left, and I do believe they're in the Group 2 cars. We can see the Nissan Scania GTR. I do believe it's the 2008 one, the Group 2 car. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I do think that's what Piero is sitting in at the moment.
I really don't have any idea.
Yeah, we're not really a Group 2 maniac, but I'm sure that these cars are really fast around this track. Certainly more fast than the Group 3 last week on Red Bull Ring, but it is a very technical, really complicated track. As we can see, Mattia Bartolini actually taking the last corner, probably looking to improve on his lap. He is 4 seconds off the pace from the first place driver, so I'm sure there is a lot of room for improvement still. As we can see, Fattoria losing the slipstream of the car in front because they dive into the pit lane. Sicki in the pits as well. And Fattoria actually improves with 7/10 of the top time of Sicki and Tony Mick, currently sitting in 4th place. We still have half the qualifying left to go. And it seems to be the two FRT drivers locking out the front at the moment. But I do believe that is about to change, although Rossi is currently doing laps without any slipstream. As we can see, Torres Drogba actually...
He's pushing very hard, I think.
I think he is certainly, and it is a very difficult track.
This is quite amazing to see that MotoGP drivers are interested in sim racing.
And what's even more interesting is the fact that they're not even bad at it. In fact, they are really, really good. I think I would probably be challenged by the speed of Rossi, to be honest. I mean, he is sitting second in the championship, and we have actually driven ourselves against some of these FRT drivers, and they are very fast. And the fact that he is second in the championship at the moment just shows how quick he is.
Yes, exactly.
So these guys are really, really quite quick. I do believe that although they would probably need to dedicate some more of their free time into the game to actually make it to the top, become a pro, go to the World Tours and everything, I do believe that they would stand a fair chance against the very best drivers in the game. Especially Rossi, seeing his speed as well as setup as well. We've seen images of his Gran Turismo setup from home. I do believe he has two setups, is that right? So he has two different sim racing setups.
Yes, I saw the picture, yes, on Facebook.
Yeah, so I do believe he actually has a bike setup and a racing setup, or is that two different racing setups?
Two different racing setups. One for this is a Trustmaster TGT wheel. He's using this wheel, I think, for this kind of games, and the other for iRacing.
Yeah, bear in mind that iRacing is only PC exclusive, so he probably has two separate ones for PS4 and PC, because why not? You know, if you can do it, then you can do it. Have two separate wheels. I mean, if you can afford it, then you can afford it. It's no big deal, you know. And the TGT is actually the licensed wheel of this game, so I'm sure that is pretty much the fastest wheel you can pretty much get for this game. There isn't really, I mean, the Fanatec series and the other sort of brands of wheels are really quite strong, but the TGT has all these additional features for just this game that are actually so crucial to do well. And I'm sure that's helping him as well, although I'm not taking anything away from him because he is hella quick. Anyway, back to the standings. I do believe that the front runner still hasn't changed. I do believe it's Sicchi still in first place, with Valentino Rossi in third place at the moment, actually. So he has improved. I do believe he was fourth a minute ago, but I'm sorry if I'm wrong. And we see Dino in fourth place, the double winner, scoring the... I don't think he started pole, but he certainly won both races in the last round, and now he's sitting in fourth place at the moment with Tony Mick in second. Tony Mick was actually participating in our race earlier, so he has definitely had a lot of things to do to prepare for in the last few hours, that's for sure, because he's looking forward to about 2.5 hours of racing, I'd say, in the space of probably about 4 hours, so he's had a busy night.
Okay, so the best lap is 1:28, 26, 28?
I do believe Torres Drogba is 9/10 off the top speed, and I do believe that best lap is held by Sicchi at 28.692, I think.
26, okay.
Which is pretty fast for these Group 2 cars, I'd say. They are also really hard to handle.
This is 10 seconds slower than the lap time for the Formula 1.
Indeed, so I would say that's pretty fast, because obviously Formula 1 is just the pinnacle of racing and motorsports, so the fact that these cars are able to get within 10 seconds, I do believe that's pretty much a very good achievement. To see how fast these cars are. But they do have a difficulty though, because I personally tried to drive Group 2 cars and I cannot use them. Like, I am just so bad at them. They understeer, they oversteer, but I'm sure they can manage it because they are really good drivers. And qualifying is actually over, so this is the last lap for Torres Drogba. He has improved, but I don't think he's actually skipped a place. So he stays seventh. I don't believe any other drivers actually finished their hot laps. We see Tiatia in 8th place at the moment, who is Bartolini with the very identical VR46 livery. Tony Mick driving in 2nd place, and Rossi still in 3rd. Brivio Bros in 5th, who is Roberto Brivio. And I do believe Mauro Sanchini actually finished his lap, so he's staying in 9th unless someone behind him actually manages to improve. As we see some FRT drivers going off the track, and it is very confusing at the moment because there's so many things going on at the moment. Top Gun is still sitting in 12th place. Is he able to improve? And he doesn't improve at all. Neither does the driver behind him. Passo actually manages to improve his time, but it's only enough for 5th place. As you see the 11th driver as well, and that's the man on pole, Siki, crossing the line as well. He doesn't improve. In fact, he doesn't even cross the line. I do believe he wanted to be the last one to cross the line, and I think he clinches pole from Tony Mick by less than half a tenth. And we see the race getting underway.
Okay.
So starting first is Siki, second behind him Tony Mick by only half a tenth, in fact less than half a tenth. Then we see Valentino behind him, also about 1/10. That's the top 3 at the moment. So Siki, Tony Mick and Rossi taking out the first 3 slots, and Dino completing the 2nd row, and the race is underway. We are looking at a 30-minute race, and I do believe someone is stuck on the grid there. The 13th driver wasn't able to get underway.
Do you think there will be a restart?
I do believe so, because it seems to be the camera also being bugged, and I do see some people going off in turn 1. I think there's about 5 cars crashing out in turn 1, judging by the track map in the bottom right corner. I do think that there will be a restart. Technical pause at the moment. We can actually hop back onto the leaderboard so we can see some more of the performing drivers. So we've had Luca Cadorora in last place, 15th with 2 points. Then in front of him is Bagnaia. Then Bartolini, who is Tiatia in the game, 29 points. Then Uccio Solucci on 32 in 12th place. And just to see, so who's the top 3 drivers again that we've seen? I do believe that is Siki on pole. So he's sitting 8th in the championship at the moment. So they really did need this pole. In fact, they need to win the race, and I do believe they can probably climb up to 6th place. Bear in mind that the point system in MotoGP is the same as the one being applied in this championship in the Firebeasts and the Ranch. So the winner gets the equal amount of points as in MotoGP. Do you know what the point system is in MotoGP, Moji?
I used to know it.
Yeah, it's pretty confusing. There's different point systems in every racing. Ooh.
On my display, there's we are offset now.
Okay, so I think we are back on the track. If I'm correct, can you see the race as well? I do believe we're back, and it's actually Brivio Bros leading the race. So there's been a huge chaos there's been a massive change of positions with Siki down in 8th place. He actually started pole. We are actually 2.5 minutes into the race, so we're now in the 2nd lap.
So there has been no restart.
And I don't believe there has been a restart, so I think there's just been some technical pauses. We have missed, unfortunately, the first race, but there's been a lot of carnage because we see Roberto Brivio in 1st place and Mauro Sanchini, as we see Uccio Cannibal actually facing the wall at the moment, so I do believe that's his race over, the driver in 13th place.
I think a lot of the drivers have some technical issues.
I do agree with that. I don't think this is the start they were looking for, but either way, it has helped out Roberto Brivio massively because he's up to 1st place, and we see Mauro Sanchini actually in 2nd. and Rossi hangs on to his third place with Matteo Bartolini behind him in fourth place. And then we have Top Gun, the first FRT driver, so we can see the real-life icons actually leading the race in the first 3 places. But now the standings have shuffled around again, and now Roberto Rivio seems to have disappeared, and now I'm really confused. I don't really understand what's going on.
Yes, because on my display, Rossi is on the second place.
Indeed, he has gone up now, but he was third a second ago, with Roberto Brivio being in first place. But he does seem to have disappeared. I'm not sure where he has gone. Maybe he got disconnected from the server. There is a bit of lagging going on as well.
Who's this guy on the lead? In the red one, in the red car.
In the red car we have Mauro Sanchini, but I do believe that is actually Valentino going into the lead now, but he does get undercut. So it's Rossi into the lead now. So he's actually made up 2 positions based on the timing board in just less than 1 lap. But I do believe there's a car in front of him, the red car, which you mentioned, Moji. I'm not really sure what's going on with him, but I do believe he's in the lead. He's not a lap down. So I do.
He's very quick.
He is very fast. He has actually built out about, I do believe I'd say about 2 seconds of a lead, 3 seconds. But I do believe the timing is still wrong. There we go. So Roberto actually appears back in first place. So now we found the issue. So Fattoria is in second place now, and Roberto Brivio is still leading the way with 2.8 seconds. So my guess was correct. I'm pretty proud of that. With Passo 5454 in the person of Matteo Pasini in fourth place now, diving up the inside of Matteo Bartolini, taking fourth place, but he does have a full 10th penalty, so I do believe that's for corner cutting. He might have extended just a little bit to get that move done, but it was a clean move, I'd say. And we actually have Torres Drogba sitting in 6th place, holding up a massive group of drivers. We can see Siki and Top Gun and Dino. These are all the FRT drivers just grouped up in one, and they're going 3 wide into the chicane with the 4th person, Tony Mick, and actually Siki goes really wide. So he's the big loser out of this race, because he was actually sitting on pole now. He's all the way down to 10th place. And Dino is up to 8th, with Torres Drogba actually leading the FRT drivers. He is the first FRT driver at the moment, so we see all the teammates just grouped up behind one another, with the real-life drivers actually leading the way on this race. So it just shows that once they're actually participating on a track that they know, although last week we had Red Bull Ring as well, they're immediately really fast. And we can see their performance showing against the FRT drivers.
It was a very clever maneuver.
Indeed, I do believe he took him on the inside there. We can see Top Gun defending from Dino on the straight. He does pull on the inside, but I do believe Dino has the outside. Can he take the outside line? As we can see, Siki being pushed, and he actually dives down the inside accidentally, but he does wait for his teammates. He does not want that move. He doesn't want that overtake to be completed like that. He might have just misjudged his braking point, but unfortunately that puts him back to the end of the train of cars. We can actually see a slightly different livery on Siki, showing he does run a little bit wide, but the other FRT drivers do have this black and sort of yellowish livery going on universally. Looking further back, we have Piero in 11th place, and then Hornatoto in 12th place. Top Gun in 9th. Some onboard footage with them going into the last sector. You can see how technical this is. If you just pay attention to the input of the brakes and the gas to drivers, you can just see how technical you have to be through this sector, with having to be really dangerous on the brakes, otherwise the car shifts its way into a really uncomfortable situation where you just lose time. But at the same time being really dangerous on the throttle as well. Unfortunately, these cars are very vulnerable to spinning, so they do have to really be careful with the way they accelerate out of corners. As much as it's tempting to go really fast, maybe it's not always the right choice.
So I would really love to hear the noises of the car, but unfortunately, I cannot hear anything.
Yeah, unfortunately, we don't have the car sounds at the moment, but I do think that the stream does have the car sound with it.
And I hope so.
So we will see.
So to the truck, some information. I've been racing on this truck many times, and I have to tell you, this is one of the most technical tracks in this game. You have to be very careful because these curves are very tricky.
Yeah, the last sector especially, as we've spoken about it before, the very careful danger inputs of the throttle and the brake, but also the first and the second sectors as well, because the curbs are actually really slippery. I'm sure we have some experiences in the past from that. The car just spinning off, so they really have to maximize the amount of track width they use without cutting anything. And the cars are really vulnerable to oversteering, doesn't matter what. Oh my god, and we see a car actually flying up the inside. Dino, I do believe he's misjudged his braking point, but I do believe he caught it as well. Oh, and he gets shoved wide and he actually spins. So Dino, unfortunately, him taking the last two wins on Red Bull Ring, now is all the way around on the track, losing all these positions all the way down into second to last place. In fact, he is down to last place because we've unfortunately lost Uchiho in the meantime, and he's still recovering, so he's lost out massively on that incident. I do believe there was another driver squeezing him wide, so he's a big loser out of this. I'm not sure who was the person causing the incident, but it was a very risky move, that's for sure.
I think he didn't want to release the throttle, and that's why he spun.
Yeah, I do believe that's just trying to maximize the track width, not paying attention to the amount of space they are leaving might be the case.
Wow.
And we see some more side-to-side action, but unfortunately we have some lag at the moment, so the car's actually ghosting inside each other. This is Tony Mick and Tia fighting for 6th place. And we see some more lag at the moment.
So there has nothing changed in the first place?
I do believe Brivio Bros, who is Roberto Brivio, is still in first place with Valentino following him close behind. I do believe, judging on the actual radar on the top right corner, so the track map, I do think that sort of every driver in the first 5 is separated by about a second to each other, so I don't think anyone has the slipstream. You can see the 3 drivers going into the last sector, with the first one and the second one and the third one being identically equally as far away from each other. So I do believe they're just following each other around, but I also do believe that Roberto Brivio's lead was a lot bigger than what it is now compared to Valentino Rossi, so I do believe Rossi's actually catching up to first place. We do have more than half the race left. We have 18 minutes left from the 30-minute race, so anything could happen, as you saw with Dino unfortunately losing out big time, falling back all the way to last place. You can now see he is just entering the last sector on the minimap on the top right corner, with Tony Mick now making a move on Mauro Sanchini, I do believe, or is it Tia? I'm not sure. I do believe it is Mauro Sanchini, and he actually climbs up into 5th place, but there might be an undercut. But I don't believe it's fast enough, and I think Tony Mick takes 5th place in the race with Torres Drogba in front. So the FRT drivers, you can see, making their way up now in 4th and 5th place, slowly pushing the real-life icons and racing drivers down the leaderboard. I do believe there was some difficulties at the start again. And we can see the move again being made for 6th place. 5th place. We're still watching the replay of the incidents happening at the moment. The move was actually done. But looking at the, I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong, Moshi, but I do believe Sankini actually overtook Tony Mick. Is that correct?
So if I could read the names, I would tell you.
Oh, okay. That's understandable. We do see a tire change being made, and I do believe there is some extra fuel going into that car, because we can see that the drivers are now on. Yeah, he has refueled actually, so he's put in about a good 10-15 liters of fuel into that car. We can see the pit stops being made by Tietia as well as Piro into the pits, refueling just under the 3/4 mark.
Do the racers actually have to stop, or this is the choice of the racers?
I do not have any information on that, but I do believe that it's a pretty obvious. I mean, there was pit stops on the Red Bull Ring circuit as well, because the tire wear seems to be really quite high in these championships, and although the fuel was enough in the previous race, I do believe it is a little bit of a tight squeeze in this one. As we can see, there's 15 minutes left of the race, and we can see Valentino Rossi in second place, chasing down Roberto Brivio in 1st place, and he's just under the halfway mark on his fuel. So I do think that they definitely have to refuel unless they want to fuel save, but I don't think that's a clever idea, because
it does not saving fuel.
I do believe. So we can see Roberto Brivio and Valentino Rossi being roughly on the same amount of fuel. So now Valentino could actually win out on this by not putting so much fuel in this car. So actually he can undercut the driver in 1st. But I do believe that they've put in about the equal amount of fuel, so the gap remains the same. As they cross the white line on the exit, there's a bit of a dangerous move, but I'm sure that's not a problem for the game. We can see a 1.8 second gap between Roberto Brivio and Valentino Rossi in between 1st and 2nd place now. It's going down to 1.7, so he's actually gained a 10th on that one left-hander. He seems to be gaining another one, so he's rapidly chasing down Roberto Brivio for the win, and we can see Torres Drogba back in the distance, dropped off by 3 seconds. So I do believe he has nothing to worry about in his mirrors, and he only has to push and look forward to get the victory here, and he does seem to be catching up. So as long as he doesn't make any mistakes, he should be able to catch up to Brivio by the end of the race, hopefully, or even before, because there is still just less than half remaining. But all drivers were seen to get new sets of tires. I do believe they are the mediums, but I'm not entirely sure. Unfortunately, the description for the tire graphics is in Italian, so I'm not really an expert at the compounds that they are using. But we can see the gap actually went back up to 1.8 seconds, so it is stagnating. So I'm not sure how long it takes for Rossi to actually catch up to Brivio. In fact, Brivio might actually start pulling out a bit of a lead. But one thing for sure is that Torres Drogba has actually lost 6 tenths behind Valentino, so we can just see how quick these drivers are. Torres Drogba is a very fast driver, but we can see that Valentino is proving to be even faster in these cars. And the gap's gone up to 2 tenths now, because we did see Valentino sliding slightly wide into that left-hander. But the fastest lap does go to FRT Dinho. I must say, one of my personal favorites. I keep mentioning his name so much. He has won both Red Bull Ring races, in case I haven't said that about 15 times already, but he does seem to have good pace on this track as well. Bear in mind that it's pretty hard for the front runners to set a good fastest lap time, because I do believe that they don't have the slipstream. But we can see the fastest laps being about 1:35, 1:32.2, sorry. So they're not too far off. Everyone's really fast in the current race, matching on pace.
And as we saw after the pit stop, Rossi seems to lose some time to the leader.
Yeah, I do believe he's dropped about 2/10 in the first lap, and now he's dropped another 3/10 in the second lap. So he really has to start making some ground up. We did see a mistake in the second lap.
Although I guess Rossi likes this track and likes the country because he has won 4 times in the MotoGP in Japan.
So he does certainly have some things tying him to Japan and the tradition. I do think he feels at home on this track. His pace does seem to show the same, but Roberto Brivio doesn't give that so easy. He's still up in first place. We do see the gap. So the gap's actually gone down. It was 2 seconds. Now it's 1.7 seconds. So he has gained about 3 times, but we can say that both drivers are fairly close. The gap between Rossi and Roberto Brivio is really crucial right now, because if he can get into that 1.5 second gap window where he can start making up some ground because of the slipstream, you can just see how Rossi's going for the acceleration. You can see how much he was losing time on the entry of the corner, but he gained so much on the exit. You can see it was 1.8 seconds into the beginning of the corner. Now it's down to 1.4 because he's gone for that extra line. Now he's down into
slipstream as well.
He does have the slipstream now, 1.3 seconds, 1.2 now, so he is gaining rapidly. So now he has to strike, but bear in mind that with the extra slipstream comes greater speed, so he has to be really careful driving the car now, because the Group 2 cars are really affected by dirty air, and we might see him potentially dropping off in some corners.
So we have seen it in the past 200 times that Rossi have patience.
Oh yeah, indeed. That's what makes a champion. So I'm sure it won't be a problem for him to judge when it's the right time to charge, and I do believe with 10 minutes, 1/3 of the race left, it is about the right time that he starts working that gap down to 1.2 seconds now, although he has come out of that corner quite slowly, so he has lost about 2/10 there. But as long as he maintains this gap until the start-finish straight, then I'm sure he can bring it down to about 7/10, because the back straight is so long and the slipstream is so crucial. He will be gaining a lot of time through there. He's still 1.4 seconds off. He is still gaining. Moji, from your personal experience, how hard do you think it is to drive in the slipstream in different category cars?
I think it depends on the wings of the car and of the downforce. And these Group 2 cars are very sensitive. So they are using slipstreams, and in the curves,
See, then you're going pretty wide.
it makes everything very difficult.
We see more mistakes being made by Dino there, unfortunately. He was the... Oh, and he's spinning again. He's into the wall, unfortunately. Dino's really not had a good race. We saw him spinning in the first corner, just before the halfway mark of the race, and now we see him in the wall again. He has run wide into the left-hander just before the right-hander, and I do believe he did get dirty tires there, and he wasn't quite anticipating how much less speed and how much less aggressive he can be on the throttle when he's exiting the last corner. I do believe he slightly overjudged it. But we still do see the 1.1 second gap between Brivio Bros and Fattoria 46.
These cars are really, really great, fun to drive, but you have to be very careful with the throttle.
Yeah, they are very tail happy, I should say. Their back ends go very easy, especially into these last corners, because not only are these last corners actually really tight and really technical, but they're also uphill, so the drivers are actually gaining a good few meters on the exit of each corner. And the fact that the track actually is off camber in some of the areas, so the second to last corner, as well as the one after the chicane. So the right-hander after the chicane, and then the left-hander straight after, are both off-camber corners. So we see the cars being washed out really far, and that means that the throttle can't actually be applied gradually. They actually have to lift off a little bit. In fact, they have to play around with the brake when they're actually giving the gas, trying to accelerate just to keep the car stable through those off-camber corners, because the car actually has so much weight on the outside wheels. And the faster the cars get, the more vulnerable they get to these kind of issues, as well as the dirty air that we can see Valentino Rossi tackling at the moment, with Brivio Bros in front of him less than a second now. But it is really hard to make up some time, because these cars, as I said, high downforce, and the track has high downforce corners. The dirty air is really affecting the handling of the car, so essentially it's like getting used to a whole different car, I'd say.
Some of the great drivers could tell you very good stories about how does it feel if you see the, Rossi in the mirror.
I'm sure I would love to experience that myself one day, though. At least in Gran Turismo Sport, if not in real life, it would be a good thing to have, just to have a little battle against him in the game. But I'm sure he wouldn't give it easy. But we can see the slipstream. Brivio Bros actually trying to break the slipstream, tucking on the inside, but Rossi actually following him. It does work a little bit. He actually reduces the gap that Rossi can make up on him, but at the same time, it's inevitable. We see about 25% fuel left in the cars. I do believe they've refueled plenty, back to 60%, and now there's 5 minutes left of the race. We can see Vale taking a really tight line through that corner, with Brivio taking the slightly wider one, but he does have a 1 second penalty, so that actually sets him on the back foot, and now we see the two drivers actually getting really close to each other.
It will count at the end.
Oh yeah, the 1 second penalty, unless he gets rid of it somehow without distracting the gap that he has, maybe by braking just a little bit earlier into the corners. As you can see there as well, he's given off 2 tenths on that lap, but he has got Valentino all the way up his gearbox at the moment with 3 tenths, sorry, separating the two drivers now.
In the straight, he will lose his position.
I do believe they will go side by side into the main straight, unless there is a slight mistake happening. Vale really needs to get a good acceleration onto this last straight, and I do believe he manages that, because he is already making up. He is 6 tenths behind, so he has lost a bit of time, but he is already on 5 tenths, in fact 4 tenths, now 3 tenths of a gap. He's half the gap in like half of the straight. It's ridiculous how much slipstream these cars are capable of. And 2 tenths now, 1.5 tenths, and it might be a move on here, and he goes on the inside, but it doesn't seem to be enough. Both drivers are braking at the same time. So unfortunately, I do believe his last few corners on the track were compromised, and that's why he couldn't get quite alongside. The gap just sort of went back up to 6 tenths. We see a lot of lag at the moment, but Brivio Bros still taking that line very wide. I do believe the inside line is quicker. How do you take that line, Moji?
Like Rossi takes.
Yeah. Is that because of Rossi, or is that because...
Oh, this is just simple, because you have to drive shorter.
You can feel the like the telepathic energy between Rossi and you, and that's why you both do it the same way, maybe.
I think so. And
now he actually goes down the inside, but I do believe.
I don't think it is necessary to catch Rossi, because you have the main straight, and you can try it on the straight in the slipstream. So if you are patient, then you can be successful.
Indeed, and I do think there is, other than this lap, there is 2 more laps left of the race. And
which tire are using these races?
Sorry?
Which tires are on?
Judging by the graphics, I do want to say that they are on the racing mediums, but I really don't know, because unfortunately the tire graphics are in Italian. But once again, we can see the overtake by Rossi there being done, but we do still see the live picture in the bottom right corner. I did think for a minute that Roberto Brivio actually played it like a mastermind, because he has lost out on that position, but on the straight he could have actually called back up, but his run was so bad out of the last corner that Rossi could actually hang on to his spot, and now we can see the gap developing now as Rossi's back in the clean air. Just in the bottom right corner. I don't think we can see the gap at the moment, but once we're back on full screen, we will be able to see what the difference is. Which is not that much. As you can see, the cars are still really tight together, so we can see both drivers actually doing really, really well. But now this time, Rossi actually on the penalty. He has 9 tenths of a penalty. In the meantime, Roberto actually let go of all his penalties, so now it's Rossi on the back foot, and we do only have 1 lap remaining, other than this one. So this is the penultimate lap of the race.
Did Rossi get the penalty?
I do think so, yeah. Rossi had a 1 second penalty, maybe for corner cutting, I'm not sure, maybe he's pushing too hard, but we can see the huge lead he's getting at the moment, because he's already 1.5 seconds in front of Roberto Brivio, so regardless of the penalty, he has already broken the slipstream, so as long as he takes care of the penalty, and he is slowly burning it away with only 4 tenths of it left now, he might actually be able to escape the slipstream and just have the race all to himself. This will be the last lap.
Yeah. And it means he doesn't need to burn the penalty.
Indeed, but I do believe that penalty will be gone by the end of the race, judging by the braking distance and the physics of the game, being able to brake just a little bit earlier, and that actually gets rid of some of his penalty. But I do believe he is very safe now, because he only has 1 sector left and about just under 2 seconds of a lead, so he might actually be running away with this unless he makes a really bad last sector, but now he's extended his lead to 2.1 seconds, so Roberto just falling further back in second place. We will see, I do believe, unless he makes a mistake into this last corner. Let's just pray that he takes it safe like he should. He knows how to drive this car. He knows how to drive. We've seen he's proved himself, and we do see him getting onto the last start-finish straight with the 2 tenth penalty still. And Brivio now 3 seconds out of his way, so that 2 tenth penalty, he still serves that by the end, and taking the victory by 2.7 seconds from Roberto Brivio. So he's actually done a really good recovery that race, and now we can see the huge photo finish by Passo and the Torres Drogba in 3rd and 4th place. Tony Mick bringing it home in 5th place, with Mauro Sanchini in 6th. Siki comes home in 7th, the pole sitter, who's unfortunately had a really bad start to the race. Hornatono now coming onto the straight, taking 8th place. Bartolini behind him in 9th. These drivers are actually really close together, with Pirro 46, then Efati Top Gun taking 11th. And we did see the car in 12th, unfortunately still being stuck in the chicane at the end of the track, so he won't be finishing this race. He will be last. And that concludes the first race. So we did actually see the Doctor making a really good time back up in the end, taking the victory. And now we have a short bit of break until all drivers get ready for the second race, and we will be back shortly.
Okay.
So, welcome back everyone. We are back in the second race. This is the same settings, same race, but this time we do see some of the different drivers. So now we have Hornatoto, Mirand, Ale, Ernesto, and some of the other drivers from FRT, and this will be the fun race. So the first race actually counts in the championship. The second race is the fun race. As we do get underway, 3, 2, 1, and lights out. We do see a huge start from the first driver of Hornatoto actually going down into turn 1. Mirand is in 5th place still, and we do see Hornatoto actually leading the way with Piro in 2nd place, with Ale in 3rd, and Ernesto actually making a really good start on 4th place with Miranda in 5th. Bear in mind that I do believe that these are the teammates of the first race qualifiers, so I do believe Hornatoto is the teammate of the Pulsar Siki in the previous race, who's unfortunately had a really bad start, and we do see a slight break after the 10th place driver. I do believe in last place there is someone, I think it's Torres Drogba in 11th, so he's taking part in the second race as well. And in the break we have actually found out that the drivers are driving on the racing soft tires. We do see the high levels of grip as Ernesto actually loses out on that fight down to 6th place, and he actually still goes sliding, slightly cutting across the track. That might be an extension penalty, unfortunately, that out of his fault. And we do see Manti going around and Tiati actually going wide. He's all the way down into last place. They have lost out. 11th place is Manti now. Unfortunately, the FRT drivers are really having a bad day. In both races we see multiple collisions actually happening, and we see the pretty much for the first half of the first race in 1st place, sitting in 7th place now, Roberto Brivio, and in 2nd place we see Ale now. I do not know where Rossi is at the moment. I don't think he's in the race. Have you seen him?
No.
I'm not sure where he's gone. He might have lost out in the start and maybe down a couple of positions, but we do say Ale in the 1st place now.
Do you know him?
Ale, indeed. We have actually raised multiple occasions against Ale. He does take part in the Cars League that Independent GTS Hungary hosts. We have races pretty much before this one. So as that race ended, we have come straight over here, which once again just shows how much stress the FRT drivers are under, because they are participating in our league and then coming straight over to fight against these huge motorsport icons in Italy. So just shows that they are really prepared and they really have to be on top of their game. Also, the fact that they were driving Group 4 cars and now they're over to Group 2, they're completely different. They've gone from little grip, slow speeds to really high speed corners, especially on the soft tires as well. Which one do you find more easy to control? Which group is your favorite, Moji?
I prefer group 3 cars because we are using them the most time.
Yeah, I do believe most drivers are familiar with the Group 3 cars in this game, as well as other games as well. They are obviously the main Blank Pain and the GT3 touring car sort of group cars.
This kind of group cars are, in my opinion, they are most realistic.
The Group 3, certainly, yes. The Group 2 are pretty much just a really tuned up version of the Group 3 cars, and the Group 4 are just a more road version. So we can see the group evolutions in the actual game, with the road cars sitting just underneath the Group 4 cars. The Group 4 cars essentially just have some more elements of a real-life racing car, so like different suspension system, stronger engines, but not much difference from the actual road car versions. While we see Group 3 actually seeing wider cars and everything, more aero, and then we just see these Group 2 cars, just humongous rear wings, front wings. We see these splitters at the front, canards at the back. The cars are fully equipped to be as fast as possible. They are pretty much the top end of your everyday road cars, because we do still see that these cars are not prototypes. They are actually real-life cars. As we see the NSX being side by side with the GTR there, and we see the Lexus of Mirand. So these are actually road cars, but they are tuned up so far to be pretty much 10 seconds off the Formula 1 pace, which is just crazy to imagine.
This is really fast.
Yeah, these cars most certainly go really fast, and we see Mirand going purple with 1/100th of a second in 4th place still, just 5/10 off of Mauro Sanchini. And I do believe I had it confirmed that Rossi is not participating in this race. We have seen him arrive a little bit late, so I do believe he's had a busy night. But nothing to worry about, because we do still have all of these other huge legends and icons taking part in the races. Although it seems to be the other way around now, because in the previous race we saw all the real life drivers extending their lead at the top of the standings in the race at the moment, not the championship. But now we see most of the FRT drivers actually being up front, with the best non-FRT driver being Mauro Sanchini in 3rd place at the moment, being hunted down by Mirand, yet another FRT driver with a pretty comfortable gap to Pirro in 5th place. So I do believe that there is a fight for 3rd going on, but I don't think he will be gaining any speed on the straight, because I think Sanchini is still in the slipstream of Hornatoto of 1.3 seconds. So unfortunately there won't be any moves being made here unless Sanchini actually manages to get some a good few tenths off the pace. And I do think Hornatoto's had a mediocre exit from the first corner, which actually puts him down to 7 tenths behind. He was 1.3 tenths ahead on the main straight, but now it's down to 8 tenths. So we might see a move for 2nd place here instead of 3rd place happening between these drivers. And obviously, as I said before, Mauro Sanchini representing the real life drivers, and he's currently the quickest out of all of them, with Pirro being the 2nd, sitting in 6th place. So we just see the FRT drivers. We can see 6 FRT drivers in the front 8 runners on the race, so they are doing really well. It seems to be that they've kept their stronger drivers, or the more warmed up drivers, for their 2nd race. Do you think the pace is any faster in this race? I mean, we do see the fastest lap being roughly the same. Now, I do believe it's about a 10th quicker by Ale, but he is in 1st place, so I don't think he has any slipstream. I do believe that is just his pure pace and showing how quick he can be. What do you think? Do you think we're seeing faster racing now than in the real life, than in the serious race? Or do you think the fun race is actually proving to be faster than the real race?
I think it will be faster, because in the 2nd race, all of the racers have more experience, so they can use this in the race. And so let's talk about the cars, because we are seeing now 3 types of cars, 3 different cars. There is a Lexus, there is a Nissan, and there is a Honda
NSX, yeah.
NSX, yes. What are the main differences between the cars?
So as far as my Group 2 expertise goes, which is pretty much as far as naming the cars if I see them, so I don't really know much about these cars, but there's one thing for sure. The GTR is actually the most chosen car for Group 2. In fact, it is one of the strongest, and we do see there are 2 GTRs in the game, the 2008 version and the 2016, I believe.
Yes.
And the 2008 version seems to be a really popular choice for these cars, so I do think that there is a slight advantage that Ale has over his competitors here, as well as Mauro Sanchini over Mirand, because Mirand is in the Lexus.
So the older one, the older Nissan, is, in my opinion, a little bit better in handling.
Yeah, indeed. I do believe that is the most more widely chosen car out of pretty much any Group 2 cars. I do believe if you see a Group 2 race, most likely it is the 2008 GTR on the top of the leaderboards. But as we see, actually, Sanchini actually losing out quite badly here, down to 5th place. He now goes side by side with Dino, but Dino now returns to the track. He has been knocked slightly wide, and now Dino is down to 5th place, and I do believe he does have the dirty tires, so he has to back out a little bit more, taking extra care. As you can see how close that wheel was to the curb there, he nearly lost it, and he still slides on the exit. We see Sanchini Mauro in 4th place, up now once again chasing Namarent, who has a really comfortable lead to him now. I do believe that it is outside of the slipstream, but what is outside of the slipstream is Ernesto to Dino. There is 3.5 seconds between the 5th and the 6th place driver. As you can see the gap there on the screen, I do believe that Dino has nothing to worry about unless he gets in a really big fight with Mauro Sanchini. In that case, he see his pretty much inviting his teammates back up into contention for the first few places.
So with Ale in the first place, we have been friends for a long time, and I've been racing him in the slips in the top split many times. So he belongs to the best drivers in Europe.
Indeed, I do believe his teammate Tony Mick 95 as well. He has some top split
experience.
Yeah, appearances as well. I do believe they have. They are really quite strong drivers as well. LA and I do believe Dino as well has been in top split, but I'm not sure. I've definitely seen Tony Mick and LA be in top split, and they have actually achieved very good results there. So they are one of the quickest drivers in the race. Although we don't really see them on time trial leaderboards, we do see Dino actually going a little bit wide there onto the exit. But once again, judging by how fast they are and the fact that they are actually on the top level of the game, despite not being a World Tour driver, although I'm sure that they would love to do that. Indeed, I do believe, at least I do hope that they are aiming for that, because they really do have the potential. You can just see how fast the real live drivers are, as once again, just to highlight their pace. The fact that Mauro Sanchini is hanging on, as you can see the delta to first place, he's only losing 1/10 into that corner there. And this last sector is really skill dependent. The drivers are usually the quicker drivers are the ones who are pretty much getting this right 100% every time. It is really hard to get the last sector right. But judging by the 5.8 second gap, Ale has actually had his stop already. I'm not sure if you have seen that, but I do believe he has stopped already. So he has maintained his lead. Just shows how far ahead he is compared to his teammates, who are now actually locking out the front 3 places. Have you had any other experience with any other drivers from the FRT team?
Just once again, if I could read their names, I could tell you.
Did you have any experience with them? Like you said, LA, you have had really good racing with. Have you had any good races with the other ones?
I cannot see their names.
Oh, okay. So Hornetoro, Morent, Ernesto, Torres Drogba.
So I think I have seen some FRT drivers in the top split as well. But as far as I know, I know only Ale. So yeah. I saw his name in the top split many times.
Yeah.
We have been racing with each other just for fun.
Yep. And just a little side note, although LA hasn't been able to participate, this is the Cars League, by the way, so this isn't the Firebeasts and the Ranch team. Just a little update on the league that they've actually raced in before they've actually come over to this race. Tony Mick is actually sitting in 6th place in the championship there, which is a really strong performance, as well as we see LA, who unfortunately had to miss one of the races, but if he wouldn't have done that, then he would be sitting in 8th place at the moment. So these two drivers are actually sitting really quite high in the rankings of the other league that they are preparing for, besides their own hosted Firebeasts and the Ranch League. So it just shows how fast they are. They are beating the likes of Vidabeni and taking the fights with Will, Mehdi, ERM Antonio SK and other top split drivers as well. So we just see how fast they are as well. Tony Mick actually achieving a really great result here in the races before this one. As we do see the halfway mark being hit, as we see Hornatoto and Miranda actually going side by side into that corner. I've never seen two cars fit so beautifully through there before. They have actually made no contact. That was really good racing, but we do see Hornatoto actually sliding a little bit wide, so Miranda might have a chance here on the inside, and I do believe he actually goes to try it, but he actually backs out in the last second. That does cause him to slide a little bit wide though, and now, as I said before, the guy in 4th place had such a big lead over the guys in front, but now they fought so much that they've actually invited the rest of their team, and now you can see 7 FRT drivers in the top 8 with only Mauro Sanchini remaining in 2nd place, representing the non-FRT, the ranch essentially, and now he comes back out in 4th place. So you can just see how little time they lose in the pits, which once again just shows how worth it is for them to actually go out for the first set of soft tires. With Ernesto being in 7th place now, and Tiatia actually coming up to 8th place now. Bartolini with Manti up in 9th place. He is trying to recover from the crash that he had at the beginning of the race. Mauro Sanchini still in 4th, and you can see how he is sandwiched between the 3 FRT drivers, but he has already done his stop. So I am not sure if he has stopped first and the other drivers haven't, or he hasn't stopped and the other drivers have, in which case 4th place seems to be the realistic place for him to be. And I do believe he was actually 4th, if I'm not wrong, because I have not seen him get up to 2nd place. He has been fighting in 4th place for the last couple of laps. So I do believe everyone has done one stop now, although we can see Miranda diving in now at any time, but I do believe that he keeps going straight. So I do think that every driver has now completed their stops. So now we can see the huge pile up here between the 2nd, 3rd, 4th and 5th drivers.
They are racing for the podium.
They are. I think this whole battle is going out for 2nd and 3rd place here, with LA being really far off into the distance. 18 seconds lead for LA in 1st place. Just shows how insane his pace is in this race. But we do see Mauro Sanchini in the Sky Sports livery actually holding the pace of the 2nd, 3rd and the 5th drivers, with Torres Drogba in 6th place trying to creep up, but I do not believe that he will have the opportunity to fight this out. Unfortunately, there is 12 minutes left of the race, and unless there is some huge battling going on, the pack at front will just get further and further away as they climb and pull each other in the slipstream. How do you think, how difficult do you think it is to extend, well, not extend, pretty much just try and work your lead down if you don't have the slipstream? Because it does seem to be really challenging on some circuits. It's pretty much a live or die situation when you lose the slipstream on many circuits. What do you think about this one?
So this is very important to keep the slipstream, because you can be much more faster in the straight line. But this is something I wanted to tell you. So about 2 minutes ago, that I think the guy on the 2nd place, he's what's his name?
Laurent.
Okay, he seems to be much quicker than the others.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps him to keep his position, and the 3 drivers behind him can use his slipstream, and we'll see what will happen.
So essentially Miranda is the quickest driver. He is in 1st place, but unfortunately I do not think that he will be able to separate from the pack, purely because the slipstream is so strong, although we do see a 1.4 second gap.
This is much, yeah. And he has penalty. So
And he does have a penalty, unfortunately, yeah. But as I said that the drivers are actually bunching up really close. They are about 1.5 seconds away from each other, so there is no real battle going on there. I do believe that the drivers just sort of happen to be.
Yes.
Ooh, and we see LA lagging into the pit lane there. With 24 liters of fuel. Is he on a 2-stop, do you think? I do believe I've seen him stopping about 10 minutes into the race.
I think he just went in the pit because he can.
Oh, yeah, that's maybe that's a factor as well. The fact that he's so far into the lead, but
I mean,
sorry?
it wasn't necessary.
Yeah, I don't think so. I do believe he had a new set of tires, and now he's gone out for another set as well as refueled. So maybe it was a good idea. I did say earlier that the pit lane loss is very, very little. I do believe it's about. I think he was about 16 seconds in the lead. Now it's down to 4, so that is still 12 seconds of a loss. But bear in mind that the racing softs that these guys are driving on are really wearing out quite fast, and we did see that the tire wear actually gets to about 33% of the tires by the time they actually do make their first stop, which is already a lot. I mean, you might think that it's not a lot, but around 30 and 40%, the car actually becomes so hard to handle on these on the soft tires, especially because you're expecting so many. Just so much grip through the corners, but once you see a little bit of wear, it's immediately falling off, and when it gets to about 30%, it becomes undrivable, especially these cars being so delicate on the handling. And we do see, actually going back, having a few flashbacks to I think about 10 laps ago, or maybe 8 laps ago, with Mauro Sanchini being out of the slipstream of the car in front and being under attack by one of the FRT drivers behind of Dino, who actually now making a move, pulling out in the slipstream and trying to outbrake him into the first corner. But I do think there was a slight bit of contact made. I'm not sure. Either way, Dino takes 4th place, and now Mauro Sanchini lost out so much that he's under attack from Torres Drogba as well. The FRT drivers making a huge comeback on this race, with the front 4 drivers being all FRT drivers. It is now only Sanchini Mauro or Mauro Sanchini left to beat the rest of the FRT drivers. As we can see, Bartolini cruising around in last place, 2 seconds off of Ernesto. Unfortunately, Ernesto is about 10 seconds off of Torres, so it does seem to be he does not seem to be able to get any closer there, unfortunately.
So what we can see here, all of the drivers are very gentle with each other, and they don't defend the line. So if you want to pass, you can pass.
Yeah, I do believe there is a real gentleman racing here going on. I don't think it's as obviously as we did see, the second race is for fun.
Yes.
But I did see that the first race, I do believe in the first race as well, the drivers were really much of a gentleman compared to each other. I do believe that they were down for some really clean and good racing rather than just pretty much just die hard, real like blood purging racing.
Yeah.
If I should be so poetic. And now Dino passing Mauro Sanchini now in the slipstream of Hornetodo, so he's making up a lot of time, and we can see how much he's driving that car. He's looking really fast now. That's actually the fastest I've seen this car appear, although there is a bit of lag going on, but I did see he nailed those few apexes, just chucking the car all over the curbs and being really aggressive on the throttle as well. I do believe he's going all out there, and Ale actually lost his lead to Mirend. So is that how fast Mirend has been? You have mentioned it before that Mirend has incredible pace, but from the Lexus as well, not the one of the strongest cars, but he is 1.2 seconds behind the leader, who used to be 4 seconds in front. Do you think Mirend is the MVP of this race?
I think so, but you cannot forget that Ale has now fresh tires.
That is very true.
He can use them.
Do you think perhaps there has been a mistake from LA that we haven't seen?
Pardon?
Do you think there has been a mistake from LA that we haven't seen on stream?
I can't imagine. Yeah. Because he lost the time to Marand.
Yeah, he has lost about 4 seconds. And he is still losing time. There is still about 6/10. Marand going purple, despite all the tire wear on his car. He has got really worn tires. I do believe that's about 25 to 20% wear, which is really quite bad. But he is still going purple in the first sector, although he has the help of LA with the slipstream. But he does appear to be the quickest driver here. He hasn't really prepared for this. Unfortunately, we haven't seen Marand or LA in the first race. Although we have seen Dino and Hornatoto and some other drivers. It just shows that unfortunately sometimes the FRT drivers need to stand out from the races sometimes as well due to personal commitments as well. But now we see actually Torres Drogba made his way past Sanchini Mauro, so now the front 5 is made up of FRT drivers, and Ernesto being the next person in 7th place, 10 seconds behind, with only I believe 3 laps to go. We did see that the previous race was 20 laps. We are now in lap 17. And now we're on the straight.
Laps.
We can see that gap just rapidly decreasing in the slipstream. It was about 8.5 tenths at the beginning of the straight, and it became 5 tenths at the end. It's ridiculous how much these cars can work down on the straights. And Marand once again going almost a 10th purple in the first sector just shows that how hard he's driving this car.
And do you think Marand will go for it?
I certainly think so, yeah. He is within striking distance, 7 tenths, and now seeing that LA actually has a penalty up front I can't really see, I think it's 1 second penalty on LA, and he's only 7 tenths in front of Marand, so he is really in trouble here. Marand has driven really consistent laps, as you can see on the right. Just look at his laps from 12th. He has done slightly slower laps before the 10th lap, but now in the 11th lap he's done a 30.6, then the 12th lap 30.0, 30.1, 30.0, 30.1, 29.6, so he's really on it now. He has started pushing all out. I do believe the pace is quicker here than in the real race, so it seems to be that when the drivers are taking it for fun and not for real, then they seem to have a little bit more pace.
You know what? It seemed to be a pretty easy win for LA, but he will struggle for it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he was how far? Like 16 seconds. Oh my god! And Marand is off.
Yes.
Marand's off, so that's his comeback gone. He was just pushing so hard. Unfortunately, he went a little bit too far, and he has lost it. That is really a shame. He fully. I do believe, judging by his pace, and now he runs wide again because of the dirty tires. He's trying to sort it out. Bear in mind that he did go sideways for a very long time, so that's done his tires as well. So I believe, unfortunately, as quick as he is, he will have to settle here for probably 4th place, as we see him going wide once again. And Twitchy, he has lost a lot of the rear grip in that slide, pushing a little bit too hard. He cracked under pressure, unfortunately. He was up for a really good comeback on LA. I do believe he actually deserved it, but now that he's made that mistake, he has ruined it. But now we see the driver in 3rd of Dino actually going really wide into that corner. He has just returned to the track, so now it's a 3-way battle for the last spot on the podium all of a sudden. Some really good events folding out, just unveiling themselves here in the final laps. In fact, there is only 1 lap left of the race.
And this is the last lap, yes.
Who do you place your bets on then? Do you think it will be Torres Drogba, Dino Marand, or even Mauro Sanchini taking the last spot on the podium?
I don't know, because there is a Honda in the front.
They're going 3 wide into the first corner. Look at that. These guys are really battling it out. And we see Torres Drogba actually cutting on the inside, but I do believe he outbrakes himself, and now all drivers are going a little bit wide. And now that allows Sanchini Mauro to actually close up a little bit further behind them. Marand's still sitting in last place. not last place, sorry, behind the pack in 5th place. With Dino in front of him. As much as I would love to say that Mirend is the most capable of taking 3rd place, I do believe his tires have gone really far off into that slide.
Yeah, I think so. And I think he has to be very careful not to running out of fuel. I think.
Yeah, they are really quite low on fuel. Bear in mind that Ale still has more than 25% of fuel, so Ale really didn't take it. Really didn't want to calculate anything. He just sort of put some fuel in and went for it, and now he takes the victory. And now we see the final 3 runners in the straight, with Hornatoto taking the 2nd place, and now side by side for the photo finish, Dino takes 3rd place. So Torres actually losing out on that 3-way fight, and now Dino actually comes out on top. He was sitting 2nd in the train. Torres Drogba coming in 4th, Miranda in 5th. Mauro Sanchini proving to be strong in 2nd place earlier, but falling back all the way to 6th place, with Ernesto finishing in 7th. Tiatia in 8th, then Roberto Brivio in 9th, who hasn't finished the race unfortunately, and that will be the end of the fun race. The 2nd race today. Now that was a blast. I do believe that the 2nd race was a lot more exciting by the end. What do you think, Moji?
I very loved this race, and it was very exciting. And we have seen some very good movements and very good maneuvers. Unfortunately, Mirand lost his place, but I think Ale has deserved the win.
I do agree. That was a really good racing. I do believe Fuji has done a lot of favors here for us today, gave us some really good racing for us. Thank you everyone for watching. It was a pleasure to commentate over this race, and we will see you again next race next week. Bye bye.
Bye bye.
Always do it on my own, so I gotta get through it. And the only thing I know is to love what I'm doing. Never give up, never slow, till I finally prove it. Never listen to the no's, I just want